The question is, can you please explain what asset utilization is? It must be something I've mentioned in several of my videos. So it's really quite simple. It's the idea, well, there's several ways to think about it, but one would be it's the idea of using an asset in lieu of labor. So for example, I've got a big property, it's 20,000 gross lot square feet or 20,000 turf square feet, whatever, and I could get out there and I could push mow it with 21-inch mowers. I could use Home Depot $300 motors, but using a better asset, a better piece of equipment, such as a 21-inch Toro or Honda self-propelled, I'm going to produce more work with less labor. Meaning on the Home Depot mower, I'm going to have to pay somebody. That mower, while cheaper, $400, is going to cost me more for the rest of my life in terms of labor because I'm paying somebody more time to mow the lawn. They're less efficient than if I spent more to buy them a 21-inch Toro self-propelled. I'm talking about a commercial grade mower, and they can walk behind that mower at one, a faster pace, two, they become less tired. So from terms of productivity, how long they can work for the day, it's faster. So I'm using an asset utilization, to cut down labor. Take that a step further, I could put them on a stand-up or stand behind or whatever you call it mower, or I could put them on a rider like a 61-inch Skag or Turf Tiger or whatever, and that is a much more expensive asset, but I have much lower labor costs. So I'm spending more on the asset, which drives down my labor cost. My labor cost is the #1 expense on my P&L. I want to focus on driving that down all the time. And so I can use equipment, assets, to drive down labor, my ongoing expense. That's one form of asset utilization. Another would be that I'm starting out in the business, I'm predominantly doing residential. Most of my residential, smaller stuff, but then I have some big residential, and the big residential requires that I put some big equipment on it. We'll go back to my 61-inch riding piece of equipment, all right? Or maybe I'm doing predominantly residential, I've got some commercial accounts. The commercial accounts or the HOAs, they require a big piece of riding equipment. Asset utilization in this example would be that I have this $10,000 piece of equipment sitting on my trailer for let's call it of a 10-hour workday. I have it sitting on my trailer 8 hours of the day. So I've got $10,000 of money tied up in an asset that's sitting on a trailer for literally 80% of the time. It's poor asset utilization. And that's because I haven't sold enough commercial work. If I want to really use my money and my assets, put them to the best use possible, then I want that piece of equipment running near 10 hours a day. I want it running all day, every day. I don't want that $10,000 piece of equipment sitting on my truck. Another example of asset utilization would be that, in our case, I don't know how many crews we have, but I think it's in the 70 range. So, and I don't know the exact number, but let's say I have 70 crews, and let's say I'm running 3-man crews right now, as an example, and it's not all that. We got techs, and they're one man in a truck in some cases, and a lot of 3-man crews. But let me just give this example. So let's say I have all 3-man crews, and then I say, you know what, we did a time study, 2-man crews are more effective, and they almost always are, and 2-man crews are more effective. Well, if I have 70, and I don't have 70 3-man crews, but let's say I did, and then I decide, okay, tomorrow we're gonna have all 2-man crews, now I'm gonna have about 110 crews. I don't know that exact number, I didn't do the math, but you get the idea. It would immediately jump to, let's call it 110 crews, because now they're only 2-man crews. So now I have to think about asset utilization. I got to think about the expense to my business for this equipment. I've got to think about things like opportunity cost of taking the money to buy all those other trucks and all that additional equipment to run 2-man crews instead of 3-man crews. There's an opportunity cost on that money. I could have used that money for marketing, growth, hiring a better leadership team, things of that sort. Or I've also got to consider things like the idea that now I have more safety risk. I've got 110 trucks on the road instead of 70 trucks on the road. There's more risk, more accident potential, more everything. So those are like intangibles that you think about, and I put in quotes because they're intangibles. You have to think through this stuff. You can't perfectly picture it. Sometimes it's kind of hard to measure it, but it's reality. So back to asset utilization. That's an example of asset utilization. I am utilizing my equipment, my assets more efficiently by putting three men in a truck than 2. It means I have to buy a lot less trucks, a lot less equipment. But that doesn't necessarily justify it because, again, labor is the #1 expense. So it's this balance of cost of assets, utilization of assets, balance of labor expense, ongoing labor expense. You've got to do the math and figure out where the sweet spot is, and that tells you what equipment you buy and when you buy it versus the number of people you put on the problem, you put on the property, you put on the job, you put in the truck, things of that sort. I hope that clears it up.